So now for our next speaker. I love what Dr. Gray said, though, about building up your team and supporting each other in order to succeed. And I think in our current emergency medicine landscape that's changing, and in order to navigate tomorrow together, see what I did there? We need to bolster our strong leaders. Your attendance here at CAPE really inspires all of us as we see faces of current leaders, mentors, and eager minds who want to positively contribute to our specialty. Today, we are pleased to have Dr. Connie LeBlanc as our next speaker, as she will be imparting her wisdom on why ED docs make natural leaders, as she so well demonstrates in her own clinical and academic work. She is a professor of emergency medicine and currently serves as the president and CEO of the Association of Faculties of Medicine of Canada. Her work focuses on leadership, equity and inclusion, and advancing excellence in medical education. Speaking of her own excellence, she is a fantastic seamstress and the creator of the infamous cape that you've seen walking around. She's just that good. So please join me in giving a warm Winnipeg welcome to the amazing and inspiring Dr. Connie LeBlanc.
Thanks, Marissa. Thanks to all of you for being here. It's a privilege to be on this stage with so many leaders in the room. So we're going to talk about, it says evidence and experience, but I'm going to tell you about leadership. They don't do RTCs. They just say, yeah, that worked. So it's kind of not really leadership. Start with some disclosures. I'm president and CEO of the Association of Faculties of Medicine. I'm a professor of emergency medicine. I'm an EDIA scholar, really near and dear to my heart. So everything that is inequity is a hot button for me. I'm on the board of CAPE. I'm on the board of the Canadian Society of Physician Leaders, where I'm the president. I've gotten honoraria from a bunch of clean people, and I've gotten grants from a bunch of clean people. So nothing that I have to disclose that's going to influence. I don't sell any leadership stuff or anything like that. So we're going to talk about the paths to leadership, what it looks like, and why all of you are super well suited by virtue of being an emergency physician and the kind of work you do, the kind of relationships you have, and why they make you the gold for leadership. And you might be thinking, yeah, I'm not really into leadership so much. Hang on. I'm going to help you see that clearly. So because of the way we work, because of the relationships we have, because of the way we have to function in a system that doesn't really work for us, because we practice where everybody can witness what we're doing, those are all things that are really strong assets for us. So what I want to do is help you see a little more clearly the gold that is the everyday work you do and how you can bring that to leadership to impact the kinds of changes that we just heard from Sarah and the kinds of changes that we desperately need in the systems that we're working in. So we work like this, right? We have overcrowding, we see people with trachs, we see people who've hit a moose. Any of you seen a patient who's hit by a moose? Hit a moose with their car? What's the first thing that happens? The sphincter goes. It's a lovely experience. As a maritimer, that's what happens. We have these overcrowded places. We have STEMIs. It's busy, it's chaotic, it's hard work. We didn't sign up for easy. We signed up for stuff that's really, really hard. And it kind of gives us energy in a strange way. My husband ran a chocolate store for a while. And I used to get stressed when he'd have to order $150,000 worth of Godiva chocolate for the next year. But I can see a heart attack. So it's kind of weird. Everybody thinks it's so stressful. If it's right for you, it's right for you. The kinds of problems we have, though, are the volume. So this is about the volume of patients who can come in our front door, and we have no control over it. What does the ICU or the floor do? They say, yeah, we can't take them yet. We're not ready. Is that a thing you can do in Emerge? Yeah, hang out in the parking lot. We'll get with you at like around 2. It's not a thing we can do. We don't have that option. And so patients come in, a lot of them come in, and then we triage through them. And some of them have true emergencies, and some of them have less emergencies. But the patient will always define the emergency. We never get to say that's urgent, that's not urgent until after we've seen them. We have overcrowding. So our hallways look like this. I'm sure your hallways look like this. This is what a hallway in Emerge looks like. We have sitting up rooms and lying down rooms and standing around rooms and people trying to sleep on benches or on the floor. That's what it looks like. And then what happens upstairs? Oh, red light. No, we're maxed. We haven't had our breaks. How many of you have ever heard that? They haven't had their breaks. They can't take the patient. Let's have a show of hands. Ever heard that? Right? That's a thing. How many of you have ever said that to a patient in the waiting room? I haven't had my break. Sorry. I just need to have a coffee. I can't see you. That's not an available option for us. We're that beacon of hope for patients when they don't have access to primary care, when something goes wrong after they go home from the hospital, when something terrible happens in their life. We see people at their worst. Some of them show us their best, but we see people when they're having the worst day ever often. And we are the people who can bring them hope. By definition, that makes all of us leaders. You're the person who can scoop a person up, get your arms around them, and find a path forward with them. That is magic. And that is really strong leadership. So we have a lot of privilege in emergency medicine. We get to see things that are really exciting. We get to do fun things. I've been in a bunch of helicopters, and I've jumped out of a helicopter, and all kinds of really fun things that we get to do. And we get to have the privilege of practicing medicine. Practicing medicine requires that you love humanity, especially emergency medicine. You have to really respect the homeless person whose feet are just enough to make you pass out. We respect those people, and we go up and provide the best care we can to them. We see people who will never go to a plastic surgery appointment. So we see the everything, and there's good to that. It gives us a perspective that's unique. We're also halfway between the community and the hospital, so we know both those systems, and that's an advantage. So loving humanity is a big part of what we have to do. Now, all of this takes a toll on us, and we just heard from Sarah that it actually does take a toll on us. So we have our biker guy. That's how we get our day out of our system. Sometimes we get discouraged. Sometimes we get really discouraged. We eat strange things, right? During COVID, I invented something called Kaboost. It's half of a chocolate boost with 2 shots of espresso. So I could go to work and put a mask on, and then halfway through my shift, go down to the kitchen, make 2 shots of espresso, put half a thing of boost in, up went the mask, in went the Kaboost, down went the mask. Not another thing went in until the end of my shift. Because we didn't know early on. We went to work, but we were afraid. And we went to work and did that. So we do really perverse things. We're like weirdos in the grand scheme of things. And we also do a thing that's very hard. This is Jess L'Espérance, and this is off Facebook. I have her permission to use this. But that walk between what you've done all day and getting home to your family and being the mother, the father, the parent, the partner, the friend that people in the rest of your life need. That walk from Emerge where you've carried all these heavy things and you have to let them go so that you can bring your best to the rest of your life. That is really hard. And I walk to work and I sometimes take a little extra loop just to let that off me. Because if we drag that burden home all the time, we're kind of icky to everybody else in our life, and we can't do that. The other thing we like to do is help people. There is work by Adam Grant. He wrote a book on it, looking at people who love to give and do things for other people who are fair traders, and people who take advantage. And the people who like to give, on occasion, are just wildly taken advantage of and end up with nothing left. But most of the time, in the long run, they end up ahead. And I think that's a big piece of leadership. Leadership is saying, I'm going to give of myself so that other people can benefit. And it is, instead of impacting what I'm seeing in front of me, I'm going to have an impact that's higher up that can change a whole lot. And so that's kind of interesting. We do feel sometimes like our patients, if you were hit by a car on your way home and died, your patient would be like, good, I got what I needed out of her. Our system makes us feel like that. Our patients don't feel like that. I practice karate. I have a second degree black belt in karate. And I was at work. That's what the banana's about. I was at work, and I saw this man who had chest pain. I did his workup. Everything was fine. I said, listen, I gave him some discharge instructions. And he said, can I ask you a question? It's kind of personal. I'm like, sure. About my weight. And so he said, well, are you safe at home? I noticed you have a lot of defensive bruises on your arms. Man, we didn't even get a merge docs to ask that. And I don't know what he was going to do if I said I wasn't safe at home. But when I went out and told the nurses, 2 of them started to cry. Because we kind of feel like used toilet paper in the system. Patients don't see us that way. Patients really value us. And so it was important enough to this man at 2 in the morning, he was going to ask me and find out. I also had a patient who told me, he said, I've been in this department for 7 hours. I've been watching you guys. You're all happy. You're all really nice to everybody. You're all smiling. He had lymphoma, and he was my age, and he said, I'd rather have my diagnosis than your job. And I was like, no, man. People work really hard to get this job. It's hard to get in. These jobs are coveted. We love this. So, and he just couldn't believe it. We can't prepare for the work we do. And this is another thing that gives us, these are all things that give us benefit as leaders, and we're going to get to that in a minute. So this is a guy who wanted an ultralight, always wanted one, finally got one at Christmas one year, and in May, he went up in his ultralight. All his family came, they're filming it. For the last couple of weeks, about 55, for about the last couple of weeks before he goes up, he starts having little bits of shortness of breath, a little bit of chest pain. When he's up, they can see him slump over, and boom, he goes down into a lake. His wife, who's a retired nurse, realizes this is not ideal because he's in the lake with his thing and he's dropped it. They get him out, and he is cold, so not dead. So they're working on him. They bring her in with him. She realizes that he's very likely dead. He comes in. The place is chaos. So we have to clear the trauma room to have a place to see him, pop him on the trauma bed. He's warmed up. Now he's dead. And she kind of knew this. She was doing okay. But the charge nurse comes to me and says, well, we're getting this other thing, and we need him out of the trauma room. We have to send him to the morgue. But his family's coming in. So I can't really send him to the morgue now, can I? Because then when they come to the front desk, they'll be like, oh yeah, he's in the morgue. Well, that's not how we do it. So I said, okay, but we need the trauma room, so here's what we're going to do. I need a nursing attendant to go put up some sheets in the clean utility room, and we'll store the body over there. And then we'll go in and bring the family into the clean utility room with the sheets in it, and that's where we'll talk to them. So that's what we did. So you can't prepare for that. Nobody's going to teach you that. It's not going to be in your Royal College exam or your CCFPM exam. But we need to be able to think on our feet so that people don't arrive and find out at the front desk that their family member's dead. The other thing with him that I couldn't have prepared for had I even thought about it, they asked me, we need to ask you something. What should we do with the video? How many of you have done what to do with the video of your parent dying courses? Hands up, everybody who's taken that course. And I was kind of like, I'm never speechless. Those who know me, I'm never speechless. I was speechless. I said, well, I'll ask the medical examiner if they need it. They didn't. Then I said, well, what we need to do, I don't know what you need to do with the video. I don't think you can delete it. You need to wrap it in a pink envelope and write on that envelope what it is. And then you need to wrap it in a red envelope and write on that envelope what it is. Because you don't want to pull it out and think it might be the Christmas videos from, 2006. And then store it. I didn't learn that anywhere. That's just how do you get through the day? So we get a backstage pass to life. We get to see other people's lives and to kind of live their joy, their trauma, their hurt, their everything vicariously through them. We know that chipped nail polish that might have been a bad thing this morning, at the end of the day, might not matter at all because you might be dead. We know that in a way that's really profound, and it's really life-changing. We have a lot of privilege. I went to Antarctica as the doctor on an icebreaker. It was fantastic. I worked like a dog. If you want to do it, I'll send you the coordinates for polar latitudes, but you do work hard. So we have a lot of leaders in Emerge, and we have a lot of people step up and say, I want to make a difference. I can make a difference. Look at them. Look at all those beautiful, sparkly people. A lot of them in this room. Sarah Gray's at the top of that page. Another page of them. I could have made 10 pages. I just ran out of time. I have to sleep a little bit sometimes. So how many of you think leaders are born? Hands up. You're born a leader or you're not one? Well, you're the best crowd ever. How many of you think that they're made? Right, so we can change that. That's the growth mindset. We can change how we do this. And when I went to look at the literature, well, there's not a grand amount of literature. There are just leadership styles that change over time. So there used to be the trait theory, and they looked at, I don't know, 150 or something different traits to try to see the leaders who were the most successful and revered and liked and felt to have advanced companies. And they couldn't find any traits that were similar. They couldn't find traits that were similar. They redid it in 1940. They started in 1907, I think, and then they redid it in 1947. Same thing. They couldn't find any traits. There are no traits of leaders. And so then you look at the style theory. It was the people who are charismatic and, you know, the loud people and all of that, and who can, you know, be bossy and manage people. And that didn't work either. So then we moved on to the task relationship orientation. So it depends what the task is. You could be a great leader for this if you did that. You could be a great leader for this if you did that. Then we got to the big five, which is extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, and openness to different experiences. That was the kind of early 2000s leader style. And then we went into servant leadership. Your job as a leader is to serve people and to make sure that they have what they need to do their work. And I think it's probably a combination of all of these. So I'm going to distill it down to the things that you do in Emerge that make you great leaders. And there are a lot of them. And then I'm going to talk to you about a couple of Achilles heels that we endure and should pay attention to. So listening. We're good listeners. You go in to see a patient. You don't only listen to what they're saying, you listen to their body language. You know when you're asking a patient something that they're really uncomfortable talking about. And what do? You ask a few other questions, and then you come in from another angle and ask them, so you can get the information that you need. We're really good at hearing between the lines, right? How many of you can tell when you talk to a resident if they're going to give you a lot of pushback? Well, the resident who calls and says, hi, I'm ophthalmology. Oh, that's a funny name. Do you have a name? Yeah, I'm ophthalmology. We're just about done, right? So that hearing between the lines and understanding how people work. And we have to do it because we see all kinds of people. Every 15 minutes all day, you're going to meet a new person or interact with somebody or do a thing. Some of them are going to love you and some of them not so much. So that's one thing. Trust. Trusting our team. We trust that our nurses are going to be able to get IVs. We trust that the RT is going to set up the vent right. We trust other people on our team. A lot of other leaders aren't able to do that. And a lot of other leaders in medicine have to check everything for themselves. Micromanaging is the work of the devil. It takes the free spirit out of everything that you do when you're micromanaged. So having trust in our team is a key element of being a great leader. We're also good at sharing our wins and losses. How many of you have been scooped over a great idea you had? You had a great idea, somebody ran with it, gave you no credit. Terrible feeling. We're good at going back to the team and saying, that really sucked, but we tried super hard. We didn't get the outcome we wanted, but everybody did a great job here. Or, wow, we were magic. We do. And that's a trait that we're not seeing across medicine or across society, that we as Emerge docs bring to leadership that's unique. We're comfortable with uncertainty. Have any of you ever met a neurologist? I'll stop there. Clearly you know neurologists. We make decisions. We can go red door, black door. And then we live with the outcome. So we're happy to walk in a room Patient's got a pressure of 60. You figure you have 5 questions. Want to be tubed? Allergic to anything? Any reason you wouldn't take blood? Who do you want me to call? You get 5 questions. They're losing consciousness. And then you say, pressure is 60. Give them a liter. We'll figure it out. Right? And so that's how we operate. That is making decisions. But we have the humility to say, you know what? This isn't working. We're going to try something new. And that is really magic. Getting other people in the room to tell us how they think it should be done. So when we think about how all these traits we have tied to leadership, they're really, really important for engaging the team, for making people feel valued, and for making sure we're not in an echo chamber. The other notion we have is elephant bullets. You know because of where you work, that you can't run into the consult room and lose your shit 3 times in one day. The notion of elephant bullets, you get about 12 for life. You can blow stuff up a few times, but after a while, you're nuclear waste, your nuclear fallout after that. So you can only lose it so many times, and you know that. You're not like the surgeon who throws the knife in the OR and yells at everybody. You know that you have to maintain your team for it to work, and that you're going to have to stay on top of yourself to be able to function. The other thing we deal with well is polarities. So you're starting to feel like leaders, aren't you? Polarities. Polarities are when you have 2 things that seem like they can't coexist. They're both true, but you have a really hard time reconciling them. So it's like providing for everyone, but paying less taxes. That seems like we can't do both. But maybe we can, and leaders' jobs are to try to figure out how to reconcile polarities. What polarity do you live with every single day in your work that you navigate, that's attention for you every single day? The waiting room and the human in front of you. So we live this, I have you, you're my responsibility, you're on my CMPA. And I have all of these who could be jaw pain, toothache with an MI. And we live that tension in a very real, very tangible, and sometimes dangerous way every single day. So putting those together is really important. Living with chaos. We're grand at chaos. In fact, we kind of like it. Keeping our moral compass. Remembering, well, no, I can't send an 84-year-old woman who lives by herself with a broken leg home at 2 a.m. That's not a thing I'm capable of doing as a human. And so we say no to other people when we're asked to do things that are perverse, that don't align with our values, and we stick up for patients. And we make sure that what we're doing is cogent and is human-centric. We tend to be transparent because everybody else, as we practice in a glass house, everybody's going to see our work. So you might as well just write it out there and have it out there. I mean, you know, in the trauma room, before you call a code, what do you say? Anybody have any other ideas? Tomorrow's a bad time to call me with them. And then you say, okay, I think we're done. So that. We also keep our hope. We keep our hope. We're people who are filled with hope. And as a leader, your job is to give people direction and give them hope that they can get there. We believe, as leaders in emergency medicine, that we can change the system. We believe that we can come up with a system that's going to be better, where there won't be as long waits, where we'll be able to navigate a department effectively, where people won't want to leave the specialty. And I believe that's true. So those are our great traits, our Achilles heels. And we have a couple of them. And we have to be aware of them. So the first one is pay attention and regulate your distress. When we're super distressed, sometimes you have to take 5. Sometimes you just have to take a breath. You just had this big set to with GI and ICU and gen surge. Nobody wants a GI bleed. They've been in your department for a few hours. They've had everything you can think of. They're taking up all your time. They're in your big pod. They need to go. They need to go anywhere, not here. And you're just, Sometimes you just need to take 5 and recognize that you are currently getting into dysregulation. And that's never going to be good because you're going to lose it and use an elephant bullet on something that's not worth it. Bias. We have biases. Everybody's biased. We've been steeped in a world that's biased our entire lives. So if you don't think you're biased, I'm going to tell you how you're biased. How many of you have ever been to a movie? Man, you guys need a life. How many of you have ever been to a movie? All right, that's more like it. The rest of you are pathetic. You know then that if you're on the 9th floor, you're Bruce Willis, and you're on the 9th floor of a building, and the bad guys are chasing you, and they have guns, where do you have to get to? The elevator? No, the elevator is very dangerous. Where do you have to get to? The stairwell? No, that ends poorly. If you get to the stairwell, you know what's going to happen. You've been to the movies. You're going to end up on the landing with your head at a strange angle, or all the way down the middle on the floor. That's where you're going to end up. So where do you have to get to? Who knows? You have to get to the air vent. You need to get to the air vent. You know it. You've seen it hundreds of times. You know that the air vent is where you need to get to because you've been steeped in it all your life. And so what are you going to do? You're going to find the air vent, and you have to get in it. And what else do you know? That you can easily navigate the air vent to the roof or the ground floor without the building plans. No problem. So all you have to do is find the vent, and you're going to be gold. And we know this, so we'd be terrified to take the elevator or the stairs because we know that in this situation, with the guns and the building that's semi-dark, that the only way out that's safe for you at all is the air vent. So that's bias. And that's how we live all of our lives. We know, for example, if I said, well, why don't you spit in a cup for the next half hour? And then I said at the end of the half hour, why don't you drink it? You'd be like, that's gross. And I'd say, well, you would have eaten it anyway. What's wrong with you? I mean, you're all swallowing your saliva now. I know what the problem is. It's at 21 degrees now. You need it at 37 because that's where you're used to drinking your saliva. So I can microwave your cup of spit and you can drink it. That's bias. You know it's safe. Why is that gross? You've been doing it for half an hour now, you just drank it. So we all have bias and we have to be conscious of them. You can't de-bias yourself, that's bunk. The other bit is the challenges that we'll run into, people who resist us. And that we need to engage our team and we need to keep our enemies closer. We can be really impulsive. We can think we know the right answer right away out of the gate. We can also try to solve problems as leaders. We always want a solution. And sometimes we need to explore the facts a little bit before we do that. Sometimes we get a little micromanaging. That's not good. Perfection is really, really bad in leadership. It just has to be good enough. And then avoiding conflict. So if you're conflict avoidant in leadership, you're going to let things happen that are terrible. And Chris Turner, who's a friend of mine from the UK, has a site called Incivility Kills. And we know that when you're treated with incivility, your cognitive ability goes down by 40 or 50% for a number of hours. And if you witness incivility, your interest in helping others and your cognitive ability goes down for hours. So incivility is terrible. Incivility is like farting in the elevator. It might make you feel good, but it doesn't make anybody else feel good. And as leaders, it's our job to help other people feel good. So looking for balance, that's the balancing stone. That's in Briar Island. It's really awesome, but I'm not going to put it back up. So what changes could happen? What changes could happen in emergency medicine that would be magic that you could contribute to? And what's going to bring out passion for you? So what about equity? What about changing overcrowding, one little bit at a time? Broad system change, having some kind of provision for rural care where people can get what they need, the best quality possible. So we need to think about what we can contribute as leaders who have all of these skills, staying aware of our Achilles heels, and there aren't very many. You think of all the kinds of doctors out there, we're magic for leadership. Make decisions, like all of the things that we just went through. So on your plane ride home, I want you to think about what you could do that would change how we do our work a little bit of leadership you can bring to the table where you can impact a bit of change. And as a leader, it's a lot of work. As a leader, you can change more than one patient in front of you, or 5 patients, or 20 patients you see in the day, 5 patients you see in the morning, whatever. You can make change that is pervasive, that is national, that is impactful in other sites, and it gives you a lot of power, not in a dictatorial way, in an impactful way. So I'll leave you with that.
Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc. That was fantastic. We have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions, so please come up to the mics if you have any. Oh, maybe somebody walking towards the mic. No, he walked past it. Okay, I have a question for you. So selfishly, what advice would you have for senior residents or early career physicians who are trying to ready themselves or be competitive, build themselves up for leadership positions?
I think as a senior resident or junior resident, you're already a leader. And I think one of the voices that our biases have us exclude from a lot of the work that we do is the voice of the next generation. And we hear about, people who have to leave on time to go to yoga and all that. And we can focus on that, or we can say, these are the people who know how to use AI. These are the people who are going to call us on our emperor's new clothes. These are the people who are going to speak truth to power. The next generation, sometimes they seem like a little soft and fluffy, but honestly, they want everybody to have 1 serving before they have 2. They don't want to live on a planet that we've destroyed. So I think you're ready for leadership now, and you develop skills as you go. You're never like a fully baked leader. You're always, I'm half-baked. So, right? So like you're never done your leadership journey. And I think everybody has something to contribute. And when we forget to include patients, when we forget to include learners, we've done a bad thing. There's a whole perspective out there that we've failed to include. So you're ready now.
Thank you. Okay, well, everyone, this concludes our plenary this afternoon. Please join me in thanking Dr. LeBlanc.